A question off topic. The Maduro and President Trump wanting to get him out of office. Your thoughts on these latest strikes and the oil tanker?
Well, as you know, Iran and Russia, for that matter, have been expert at evading sanctions, and this is going to increase the pressure on Iran, which continues to try to reconstitute its nuclear program after President Trump acted so decisively in setting it back. But Maduro is hosting Iranian influence and terrorist organizations from Hezbollah in Iran, and they're working with the narco traffickers in exporting poison that's killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So I support the president's efforts to not only put pressure on Iran, but also to convince Maduro that he needs to leave and they need democratically elected leadership.
Senator, where do you stand with the war powers resolutions right now in terms of bipartisan lawmakers that think Congress should have a voice in the overall wider campaign?
In terms of Venezuela?
In Venezuela, yeah.
Well, I think the president is operating with his authority. I certainly think that Congress should be a partner in supporting the administration when it comes to stopping this poison from leaving South America and coming to our streets and communities and schools. So I'm more than happy to have that conversation. I don't know whether any of our Democratic colleagues are actually interested in working on a bill that would actually make Congress a partner with the administration. In the absence of that, I support what the president's doing.
Senator, you already said
of potential military action against Venezuela is one of the most dangerous steps by presidents in recent history. It threatens to embroil our troops on the ground in active conflict, and it will be a quicksand for our military if this escalation continues. This kind of seizure of a vessel, if it's meant to take over the oil reserves of Venezuela, as appears to be the case, and be a prelude to military action, is deeply dangerous. And the president owes an explanation to the American people beyond just, I guess it's the oil.
I guess that's the question, right, is as you see these continued escalations, has anyone from the administration communicated with y'all about what the actual end goal is? Or is it just, as people surmise, regime change?
It appears to be regime change, but the president has stated neither to us nor the American people what exactly the end game, the strategy, the goal is here. And we're talking about a country that has significant military forces. It's not going to be a walk in the park if the President of the United States decides unilaterally, without consulting Congress or the American people, that he's simply going to invade another country. The President is being very badly advised by probably the Secretary of Defense, who seems to think that every confrontation is a war, whether it's narco-terrorists or anyone in the world on the domestic front that seems to rub him the wrong way. I think this kind of warrior mentality, resorting to physical force all the time, everywhere, is going to have tragic results in Venezuela if this seizure of the tanker is a prelude to military invasion, as appears to be the mounting case.
Do you think the Secretary of Defense needs to go?
I'm sorry?
Do you think the Secretary of Defense needs to go?
Secretary Hegseth needs to go. He should resign or be fired. The mounting dangers that he poses to the American people, Signalgate, the military strikes, potential war crimes, now the possible invasion of Venezuela, they're all his doing, and plus he has created a command environment that really degrades our military. I think he needs to go. He should resign or be fired, and it should be immediate.
Do you think he will be?
I doubt that he will be immediately, but I would predict that Donald Trump will tire of losing. He's not winning with Pete Hegseth. He is losing deeply, and the only question is how dire the consequences will be for the American people before he decides Hegseth has to go.
My understanding is that it was a ship that was previously sanctioned for supporting the IRGC, and that it was done in conjunction with the FBI and DOJ. I think we should enforce laws, and if we have ships that are sanctioned, they should be seized.
I think it's an escalation. You could look at just that and say, well, what about the rationale for that? But it's all part of a pattern. You know, the boat strikes, the threats, land invasion could be next, seizing the oil tanker. So it is an escalation, and it continues to demonstrate Congress needs to take this up. We haven't had a single public hearing either in foreign relations or armed services, and we shouldn't be at war without a vote of Congress.
Do you agree with the increasing aggression against Venezuela?
Well, what we're doing is we're stopping drugs. It's not against Venezuela. Maduro is not the duly elected leader of Venezuela. He stole an election. Armando Gonzalez was the elected leader. What he is the head of drug cartels. He's indicted in the United States. He needs to be in prison in the United States. So what the president's doing, what the president is doing is he is stopping drugs from killing our grandchildren and our children. And I applaud him for that. So Maduro will be arrested. He will be in prison, or he's going to be in Turkey or Russia or China, some other place.
What does seizing an oil tanker have to do with stopping drugs?
What
What
so?
does seizing an oil tanker
Well,
have to do with
that money is going to the drug cartel, led by Nicolas Maduro. That's what it's doing.
Should the U.S. keep that oil? Do we have the legal authority to do that?
I'd have to talk to the president. I haven't looked at that.
Are you open to U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela?
I'm for Maduro being in prison and no more drugs in this country. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
On the president seizing this oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, does the U.S. have the authority to do that and to keep that oil?
Well, we're looking into it. I mean, I don't know about keeping the oil. I mean, that seems like probably not, something that we, could or should do. But if they're in violation of sanctions, there are actions that we can take.
Do you think escalating against Venezuela is a good idea?
Of course it's not. And if this is about regime change, that has never really worked well for us, whether it's South Vietnam or Cuba or Iraq or Afghanistan. Regime change, even though Maduro's a bad guy, I'd like to see him go. He's as bad as Juan Hernandez, who this president just let out of prison. He's that kind of, criminal. But us trying to force it is never been successful U.S. policy. I gotta go.
About the president seizing this oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, what do you make of his actions in Venezuela?
Well, first of all, his actions in Venezuela, he just randomly seizes ship. They're randomly blowing things up. We've not seen the intelligence. We've not seen the video. We have not seen the justifications. We have seen the Office of Legal Counsel justifications, which are flimsy at best. We saw them in the classified briefing. They should be unclassified. They're just a legal opinion. But until they are, I can't discuss it. But I'll just say flimsy at best. And so the president is trying to get us into a war. He needs to remember that only Congress can declare war. And what is the purpose of this war? Seems to be, does he want the oil? Does he want to stop it? We don't know what he wants. He just, like I said yesterday, I think they just like the visual. And they want to say, we're grabbing big things, we're blowing stuff up. I'll say it that way so I don't get beeped like I did yesterday. And it's absolutely ridiculous, and we need to hold them accountable.
Their claims that this is about going after drugs or holding people accountable for drugs is just a bunch of nonsense. It's a cover story. And what happened with the ship is an example of how that's just a cover story. The real goal here is clearly regime change in Venezuela and accomplishing regime change by force. And if that is the case, this requires obviously congressional action under the War Powers Resolution.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is today calling the U.S. seizure of an oil tanker after it left port in Venezuela a, quote, successful operation. Attorney General Pam Bondi released this video of the operation. CBS News has learned it was launched from the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, which has been in the area for weeks as part of broader buildup of U.S. forces in the region. The vessel in question, called the Skipper, faced sanctions for several years for alleged terror links. Venezuela's government is condemning the seizure, calling it an act of international piracy. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now from our Washington newsroom. So more than 30 U.S. sanctioned oil vessels are doing business in Venezuela. Has the White House indicated that it may make further seizures?
Well, the president, when asked about this yesterday, did say they may do more of these types of seizures. This was the first of its kind that has happened, and certainly speaks to a ramping up of this administration's campaign against Maduro and the Venezuelan government. We learned a little bit more in this briefing about exactly what the DOJ was doing there. They say the DOJ and Coast Guard in conjunction right now are doing a forfeiture process of this vessel that was seized yesterday. Caroline Leavitt, during the briefing, said that part of the reason why this ship was seized was because they believe it was bringing non-sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which is quite notable there because that shows that there's perhaps more coordination between Venezuela and Iran that this administration is honing in on, which may give more of information, ideas as to why this administration has gone so hard against Venezuela, not only as it relates to the supposed narco-terrorists that they say they're targeting, but now as it relates to the global oil trade. So quite notable there. This vessel is undergoing an investigative process. Caroline Leavitt says eventually it will make it to a U.S. port, but for right now it is going through this investigative forfeiture process and still in the region. Lindsay.
And what can you tell us about what exactly is going to happen to the oil on the boat? Is there a process in line there?
So Caroline did kind of speak to this a little bit. She said that there is a legal process that this is going to have to go through, but at the end of the day, the U.S. is going to seize the oil that is on board of this ship.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you.